All right, and that's my talk. All right, so now that the worst has happened, I won't be nervous for the rest of it. All right, let's talk about hiring. You might be wondering, why should you listen to this guy about hiring? Well, I'm a self-taught engineer, and none of my images are showing on my slides, so that will be a lot of fun as we go through all this. But I say this only to make the point that I didn't have any special connections when I was trying to break into my engineering career. I've lived in Montgomery, Alabama, just to double down on that, my entire life and my entire career. It's not exactly a thriving tech hub. All right, finally, every single role that I've had my entire career used what we're going to cover today. But before we get to that, we all need to be on the same page about something. Before we talk about anything else, there's something that you need to understand. Hiring is not about you. It's my job, my career, my future. Hiring is absolutely about me. Wrong. It's not. I get it. We're all used to being the main character in our own lives. But if you take that mindset into your job hunt, you're going to already be starting on the back foot. If you're trying to get hired, you need to internalize that companies are the main character, and you are just filling a supporting role. One more time. Companies are the main character. You are filling a supporting role. Now, why is this so important? All right, when you approach your job search, hiring as the main character, what do you think companies hear? They hear a whole lot about what matters to you. But companies don't want to hear what matters to you. They want to hear what matters to them. But don't just take my word for it. The candidates who stand out aren't always the ones who know the most. They're the ones who understand what matters right now for this company and how to communicate it well. All right? Which leads to the most important thing that we are going to cover today. What do you think matters more than anything to the companies that you're applying to? Is it that you're capable of doing the job that they need? Maybe it's that you're a good communicator, you're easy to work with. What about being a quick learner? That's a good one, right? You're probably thinking quite a few things like this, and all of these matter, but the reason that they matter is because they're signals for what every company is actually trying to figure out. Can I trust you? Resumes, portfolios, interview questions, what is the point of all of these artifacts? They're bat signals for trust. Well, at least they were. The sad truth is that this is what AI has broken about hiring. Trust. Trust has been flipped upside down. Trust used to be innocent until proven guilty. Not anymore. Companies have been burned. For companies, doubt is now baked in from the jump, and it's on your shoulders to prove that you are trustworthy. But why? That's not fair. Why do companies not believe me? Why is hiring like this? Well, remember, you're not the main character. You need to be looking at this from the company's perspective. Jake, the founder of Railway, never ever underestimate the damage a single bad hire can make. Heaton Shaw, legendary founder, been in the industry for over 2 decades running companies. A bad hire isn't just a cost. It's a tax on everyone else's performance. You see, for companies, hiring is a risk. A bad hire costs more than not hiring anyone at all. And AI has obscured the signals that companies have always used to evaluate it. Just to be sure, I poked around a little bit, tried to see if this was actually the reality. Well, there's this tweet here about the death of inbound because AI now enables you to spam your AI applications to all the companies. People are using Cluely to figure out if candidates are cheating using Cluely. People are using AI efficiency to hold multiple jobs and not telling their bosses about it, and more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. AI has broken hiring because AI has broken companies' ability to trust you. So what now? What can you do when companies are skeptical out of the gate? Hiring has always come with risk, But now, companies are having to rebuild their hiring instincts in real time, all in an effort to answer the thing that has always mattered to them. Can I trust you? So, that's what we're going to do today. We are going to learn how to build trust. Now, I'm not talking about just a little bit of trust. We are going to learn what it takes to be someone so trustworthy that you take risk off the table. A no-brainer. What's the trick? There are no tricks. Let me be abundantly clear. What we're covering today works. It's going to improve your ability to find roles. It's going to improve your ability to land them. But that's because you cannot hack trust. It requires proof. Trust is not something that you tell. Trust is something you show. So, how do you do it? All right? Well, let's visualize what hiring is like. These little green diamonds are all the opportunities that are floating around. And that little guy in the middle, that's you. But this is what hiring actually kind of feels like. You don't know all those opportunities are out there. It's the fog of war. All those opportunities floating around, and you can't find them. Well, we're going to talk today about 2 levers that change this dynamic. 2 factors that exponentially increase your chance at not only finding, but attracting all those opportunities that it feels like you can't see. The first one that we're going to talk about is being noteworthy. Now, when I say noteworthy, what I don't mean is being famous or popular. It's a metric for your ability to get attention and a positive reaction from the work that you do. Now, let me emphasize that again. For the work that you do. This tweet captures the spirit of being noteworthy, I think, as well as the rest of what I'm going to say is. See a cool tweet, scroll the profile. It's all cool tweets. Follow. You want to be the cool tweets. All right? So, how does noteworthy actually impact your ability to get hired? Well, this is what noteworthiness does. Noteworthiness is gravity. As you increase your noteworthiness, you're increasing your ability to attract opportunities. As you increase your noteworthiness, it means that your job search no longer relies solely on you finding every opportunity. They start to find you. So, how can you be noteworthy? Being noteworthy is a simple formula. Simple, not easy. Now, like we've already said, you can't hack trust. It requires consistency. It requires time. But there are 3 steps that you can take to increase it. The first is mindset. Mindset is internal. Now, this is a tweet that I think does a really good job of talking about what I mean by mindset. The best reason I'm good at my job is that I love my job. Now, that's more load-bearing than you'd expect. It's much easier for me to work at 12 hours a day, to think about it in the shower, than anything else I've ever worked on. I want to do an amazing job. I want to say yes instead of finding reasons to say no. Said another way, it's love of the game. It's how excited you are to wake up and do what we do. And what we do is we are problem solvers. And your mindset is what makes it easier to get better at it, makes it possible. Why? Well, this is what it means to be a problem solver. First, you have to evaluate. You have to understand problems. You have to care about them. You have to dig in deep, form opinions on the problems. And then once you've done that, you have to turn those opinions into solutions. And some solutions are better than other solutions. So you observe. You have to see your solution in the wild and figure out, did I find the better solution? Well, chances are no, you didn't, sorry. So you have to start over with the knowledge that you've gained and try again. And again, and again, and again. You see, the path to mastery is not just skill. The path to mastery is a war of attrition. That is why mindset matters. It's grit. You need to find what gets you pumped, what gets you motivated to wake up every day and start running this loop. Sometimes it's your job. Sometimes it's not. But it is your job to find something worth working on. All right, here's an example from my past. A push that I needed when there was a gap in my own motivation. I decided to build a game engine from scratch. using a language that I'd never used before called Gleam. This project was something that I woke up every morning pumped to bang my head against the problems that were there in front of me. And let me tell you, there were a lot of problems. And it showed from all the outcomes of this work. I got to speak at my very first conference because of this project. People who knew what I had been working on because I'd been sharing and talking about it. Jason Lingstorff was asking for people to come onto his live show, and I had other people recommending me for it just because they knew that this was what I was working on. And the lessons that I learned about game engines inspired the work that landed me at 2 other conferences. But more importantly, the reason for this talk to begin with, I got a job offer from a company whose founder was really into game engines and designing games. He had already built one himself. Loving what you do is more load-bearing than you realize. All right, next step is a habit. Mindset's internal, habit is external. Remember, trust isn't something you tell, it's something that you show. All right, the reality is that no one knows what you're doing. They don't know what's interesting about it. They don't know what you're good at if you don't tell them. Now, this doesn't mean you need to go viral. It doesn't mean you need a ton of followers, but you have to put it somewhere people can see it. When you share your work consistently, you increase your surface area for all those opportunities to happen, for people to find your work. And even if they don't find it until the 345th post, guess what? Now they can go look at all 344 other ones. Someone with a habit for creating and sharing their work over a longer period of time, guess what? No-brainer. There are so many examples of this, but I think this is one of my favorites. There's this account called Small Worlds, and in 2023, they decided to write a tiny sci-fi story every single day. This is what those look like. A Zen Buddhist sends an email with no attachment. A spaceship transporting a shipment of Nikes runs out of oxygen. The pilot uses the air inside the shoes to survive. All right? Pretty good, right? He did this for 365 days in a row. Now that's a habit. And it showed. At the end of it, those 365 tiny stories were acquired by Iconic Arts, a Hollywood studio. You see, a habit builds momentum, and a public habit increases your surface area for opportunities. All right, mindset, internal momentum. Habit, external momentum. Both of these methods are for increasing your general noteworthiness. But the last step that I want to talk about is a tactic. Now, a tactic is targeted momentum. What does that even mean? Well, what's the highest signal that you can send to a company to show them that you're a low-risk bet? Let's take a look at this tweet from Ben over at Cursor, because he highlighted exactly kind of what we talked about at the beginning of this talk. He lists 6 companies, which you can't see all of them because screen size, explains what they do and shows what matters to them. And then he shares a tactic, something that directly demonstrates to the company that you understand what matters to them and you're capable of doing that work, all before a single interview is even needed. Now, we don't have to look very far for an example for this. Rye Sullivan contributed to open code multiple times, and he has consistently been building his own opinions on MCP into a project and sharing it. Rise was a no-brainer hire. But let's double down on this example. He also built chatting with a GitHub repo and faster GitHub. If he wanted, these would have been the exact type of projects to land a role at GitHub. They focus on a specific problem and that users care about a lot. And then he shares how he would have approached the problem and solved it. But this is so much work. All right, a friend of mine, Aaron Francis, says that we have to operate in the reality as it is, not as we wish it was. And the reality is that if your argument for not putting in as much work as you possibly can for the companies that you want to work for is that you meet the minimum requirements, guess what? You're going to get the minimum consideration. All right, final point on becoming noteworthy. It only takes a little effort to get started, but that curve gets pretty steep pretty quick the more noteworthy that you get. To start seeing more of the benefits, it requires like a longer time horizon or taking like really big bets on projects that are going to attract more eyes. Just like we saw with the sci-fi story example, like what do you think would have happened if he stopped after month 2, right? But that's why there are two factors to becoming someone so trustworthy that they're a no-brainer. I covered becoming noteworthy first because it's easier. It's concrete. You can see the output of your effort immediately. The second lever is not so concrete, and it's every developer's favorite, networking. All right. The effort required for networking actually looks the exact opposite of the effort graph for becoming noteworthy. The curve is like steeper all at the front. Why? Because being noteworthy or getting more noteworthy is a solo act. You can do it alone. You can see the output. You can feel the growth as you master new skills. Networking is not that. The reality is that it only takes 4 to 5 people to completely change the trajectory of your life and your career. But the fun part is that you have no idea who those 4 or 5 people are going to be. It's mostly luck, which means you can't stop networking after the first 4 to 5 people that you meet. But those first 4 to 5 people are also the hardest. Networking is a flywheel, which means it's really hard to get momentum, to get it started. But once you get that wheel turning, the easier it becomes. That's why you combine both of these levers. All right, if noteworthy was equivalent to gravity, then networking is visibility. All right? As you build your network, say goodbye to the fog of war. Suddenly, you can see all these opportunities that are around you. And look how these two interact. Relationships increase your visibility and your reach. And your noteworthy, that gravity, is able to attract those opportunities that you can now see. So, how do you do it? Well, I can tell you with absolute certainty that if the idea of waltzing into a room full of strangers sounds 0% appealing to you and trying to make friends, there are other ways, other very effective ways of networking that doesn't require this. Now, I don't have time to deep dive into each of these, but I've got some opinions on it and some other thoughts, so we're going to cover the high points here, and then come find me after the talk if you want to dig into any of them. I would love to chat about it. All right, the first one up, communities. X.com, the everything app, is a community, but it's the entire community. It's noisy. It's hard to stand out. Now, that doesn't mean ignore it. It's also the best way to reach the largest number of people, but it's more aligned with the noteworthy lever that we just were talking about. No, what I want to talk about are niche communities. Niche communities are tighter-knit groups where you can actually stand out, where you can build meaningful relationships and not just be another face in the crowd. Let me cover some quick tips from my experience observing both successful and unsuccessful behaviors in these communities. 1, make a recognizable avatar and stick with it. You're trying to make connections. Consistency and recognition go a long way to help with this. 2, casual conversations matter. If the only time that you post is when you need something or when you're spamming your work, I think you all can figure out how successful that's going to be. 3, expertise builds trust. Don't be afraid to niche down even further. All right, you remember the game engine? I jumped in the Gleam community to get some help on that. Lovely community, by the way. But I became known as the game engine guy. So anytime anybody started talking about games or anything, I got brought into the conversation by other people. 4, observe patterns and pain points. A great way to get ideas for articles, for projects, for other types of media is to pattern match on common topics and problems that you see in that community. And last, you don't need all the answers. It's a community. Working through problems together is fun. And it's also effective in building real relationships with people. All right, next up, media. Podcasts, live shows, YouTube videos. This whole category is a trust-making machine. Why? It's easy to see the work that other people can put out, but it's very hard to see the person behind the work. Not the case here. Work like this gives people a chance to feel like they know the person on the other side. Whether it's someone else's show or your own stuff, being in someone else's show, it's incredible. It is an immediate spike in your trust level because you get the benefit of the trust and goodwill that they've built up. It rubs off on you a little bit. But I don't know if I would recommend this as the first thing that you try to do. If you get the opportunity, great, definitely go for it. But getting invited on someone else's show, you remember that effort curve on the noteworthy graph? It's on the part that starts curving up. You need to have built up a little bit of that noteworthiness usually before in most cases. But what you don't need to do is wait for that noteworthy curve to start making something yourself. Make your own show, make your own podcast, your own videos. It's much easier to start a relationship when you invite people to come talk about something that they care about. Not to mention people who may have never answered a DM or a message reply, they're more likely to pop on and chat if it might be in the shape of media that gets shared with others. All right, quick example. Back before a single person in our industry knew my name, or back before I'd done anything of note at all, I made a podcast. I was really into this language called Elm, and I'd been wanting to build a CMS with it. I didn't know how to do it, though, so I went in the Elm community and asked around for people who knew how to do it, and I had them on this podcast that I was making where I just asked them how they would do it. I only ever did one season. I don't think a lot of people listened to it, but there were two benefits that I got out of this. One, I now had a relationship with every single person who jumped on that and helped me out. When we saw each other in person or around the community, it felt so much easier to engage with them. And two, the reason for all of this, not many people listened to it, but one person who did gave me my second job. All right, next up, events. Events have the same benefits as communities and media, but supercharged because they're in person. The speed that you can build a genuine relationship with someone is exponential in person versus to online. Now, this starts getting into that territory of more traditional networking and why a lot of people have a negative reaction to it, but it works. But I do have a little twist on it, a little secret maybe. Being a guest, great, but I also think it's a little harder just being a guest. Being a speaker, superpower. You get to network with other speakers, and guests are more inclined to try to come up and talk to you after you get done with your talk. But I want to point out something that I think people overlook too much when it comes to getting the most out of attending an event. Volunteering. All those pink shirts walking around helping you. Walking up to someone and making a cold open is really hard. You know what else is really hard? Coming up with a talk idea. Getting that talk accepted, practicing it a bunch, getting on a stage and a bunch of strangers get to judge you. Yeah, it's a little tough up here. As a volunteer, you have a reason to interact with people, a reason to introduce yourself to the guests, to the sponsors, aka the people who are hiring, and speakers who might be harder to get a moment with or easier to reach as a volunteer too. Real networking is about bonding. And as a volunteer, you get access to the best bond of all, a bond through mutual stress and hard work. Volunteering, I think, is one of the best event hacks because it's fun. It's less stress than speaking, and you have a reason to help others and have a reason to engage with everyone who's attending. All right, this is the last method that I'm going to talk about, but I want to hit it really quick, mostly because I think this might be like one of my favorites. As I said, the best networking is just bonding, which means it doesn't have to be about you. It doesn't have to be about your work. It's just about bringing people into your orbit. And being someone who connects others is an incredible method for doing this, because you get to be the one who notices. You get to be the one who sees people who do incredible things, and maybe you get to be one of those 4 or 5 people who brings them an opportunity that changes their life. Okay, this is where the talk ends. The best time to start doing what we covered today was 5 years ago. To start sharing work you care about on a regular basis, to increase your surface area for being noticed, to build relationships and connect with the person who might one day bring you that opportunity that changes your life. But the next best time is today, and that's not just a cliche. Why? Because today, curiosity is the currency. AI may have broken hiring. AI may be changing how all of us are working, how companies expect us to work, but AI has broken something else. AI has broken the status quo. Right now, today, no one knows what the future is going to look like. But I know what the present looks like. It looks like a massive opportunity for the curious, for people willing to say yes, for people willing to say yes to new tools, say yes to new challenges, new projects, and to share all of that with anyone who's going to listen. Because at some point, that's going to change again. Workflows will stabilize. The tooling explosion is going to reverse to the chosen few. But who knows when that will be? Today, everyone gets to start from zero again. Companies want people who are willing to strike out into the unknown. Companies are looking for people willing to say yes, because nobody knows what the future looks like. But companies are wanting to find people who are going to put in the work and be explorers. Why can't that be you? My name's Will King. I'm a design engineer at Snowflake. You can find me at wking.dev or on X at Will King. Every Wednesday, I do a live show at 1 p.m. Eastern with my buddy Josh Siri. We talk about creativity, music, tech, all sorts of stuff. If you're here, you'll probably like it. If you couldn't care less about anything tech, me and my wife also do a podcast. It's called No One Asked Us, because no one asked us to do it. And even if nobody listens, I think we'd still do it just because it's a whole lot of fun. This is my family. And tonight, I am missing my 6-year-old's soccer game to be here and try to help you knuckleheads out. So, you better have listened, and you better get out there and do incredible things. Thank you.